following the stream now, not likely.
Pat, you're live.
Welcome everybody, here we are again at Grand Cayman Island, off the western side here at Cayman Point. I'm Patrick Fitzgerald and I'll be your marine biologist underwater today. Our marine biologist on the surface is Lauren and we have Rian on camera. Now, today I am on pretty much straight out the front of Don Foster's Dive Centre and I'm going to be looking around this reef area for some angelfish, but that's going to be out on the way out to the sand patch, where fingers crossed we can find ourselves a stingray or an eagle ray.
Oh, sounds exciting, Pat. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining on a second dive of today. So Pat's obviously very hopeful that he'll find a stingray for us, but I'm kind of hoping he will find us a moray eel. So no matter what chat stream you're on, please send in your questions, or if there's anything you would like to see, then remember to hashtag diveLIVE. We will try and answer as many questions as possible.
Yes, most definitely. Now I am at 8 meters right now, so about 30 feet down.
And Pat is diving right outside Don Foster's Dive Centre in the Grand Cayman. We could not... Oh, what have you found?
So the camera definitely wouldn't have got this, but just off in the distance, there was 2 parrotfish that just spawned. Oh, it's about to happen again. Oh, awesome. So we have some parrotfish spawning happening again. Hopefully it happens again. So the males and the female are swimming up into about 3 or 4 meters, so about 15 feet above the water, and then it finishes with a big release of sperm and eggs. So that just happened right here with 2 different pairs of parrotfish. So let's see what happens with it.
I wasn't able to get a glimpse of that, Pat, but maybe you can try and look out for them again.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye out.
So we're just adjusting the audio here, but we do have a request for a jellyfish from P. Hart. So if you see any jellyfish, let us know. Yeah, we are aware of the background noise. We're just adjusting it just now. Bear with us. We are operating outside of a dive centre, so there are other people around. So bear with us. And Pat's audio seems quite quiet, so we're just adjusting your audio as well, Pat. So while we're doing that, you can find some awesome things for us to see.
Yeah, so just let me know when I am nice and down for everyone again, and I will continue to run my mouth.
Well, we do have a really interesting question from Samantha K. She's asking, what is a good way to get over your fear of the ocean?
Sorry, what was the question?
Hold on 1 second, Pat. Yes, Samantha K was asking, what is the best way to get over your fear of the ocean? And that's a great question. Many people have different fears about many things, and the ocean is a powerful and can be a scary place. I would recommend definitely trying to do a snorkel and get in the ocean and face your fear. It's incredibly beautiful, but always do this with a certified guide, someone that's trained to take you with the necessary safety equipment. And then at least you'll be well looked after, but I highly recommend you get over that fear and just go for it.
Yeah, and another great thing to do is just get in the ocean. I mean, a lot of people have this fear, this paranoia that something bad is going to happen to them when they go into the water. Now, I've been in the water thousands and thousands of times, and in some situations I do get scared myself, but the amount of times that you get in there and something bad doesn't happen, is way, 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 way more than the amount of times that you'll get in there and something bad will happen. And I mean, the only time I've been in a bad situation has been from heavy waves, really, or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, so it's just about getting down here and realising that it's really not that unsafe. It's no real more threat than being on land. A lot of people have this fear of sharks as well, and the amount of shark attacks compared to the amount of car crashes is ridiculous. There's so many more car crashes than there are shark attacks. So if you think to yourself, well, am I scared to get into a car? No, you never are. So then you shouldn't really be scared to get into the ocean as well.
Exactly. More people are killed yearly by cows, and that's correct, cows, than they are by sharks. So sometimes our fears get the better of us, but Pat is actually a bodyboarder and a surfer, and I am also a free diver. So lots of our hobbies are centered around the ocean.
Yeah.
It was a really good question. Thank you for that.
Yeah, great question. So we have made it out onto the sand touch now. There is no signs of any rays as of yet, but there are some guard meals out in full force, some tailfish, and a hogfish floating around too. So let's take a bit of a look around it.
Yeah, there's always something to see on the sandy patch, which is why we always bring you here. And Megan is asking, do fish have a good sense of hearing? And yes, they do. It's definitely much better than mine. They have many sharp senses, including our 5 senses: sight, smell, hearing, touch, and taste. But fish actually also have an additional sense, and that is something called the lateral line. This is a line that runs along the side of the fish's body from the head to the tail, and it's filled with jelly-like pores that contain little hairs, and these hairs actually detect pressure changes in the water. So they're able to have a much more in-depth perception of their surroundings just by using this lateral line. So you have to remember, fish are in the ocean and light and sound travels so differently there. They have to navigate the globe, find food, and find each other. So they have adapted different senses just for this.
Okay, so we're going to come off the sandy patch now and head back out onto the reef. I'm going to keep my eyes out for an angelfish here today on the reef. Because,
your favourite?
Yes, they are quite beautiful. And we actually have a species right ahead of us, a rock beauty.
Oh, nice. Oh, yep, we can see that just ahead of us, a little on top of the coral reef. It's a very small rock beauty.
Yeah, so this species is called Colocanthus tricolour. Now, it's called Colocanthus tricolour. The tricolour meaning 3 colours. So it's got a black patch on its body, a yellow cast around its head and its tail, and it's got blue lips.
That was a great little Latin name drop there, Pat. Well done.
Sometimes I gotta sound a little scientific.
Well, sometimes, yep. Oh, we've got a perfect view of that rock beauty right now. So it is one of the smaller angelfishes, and we do find 8 different species of angelfish here in the Caribbean. But I think the rock beauty wins as one of our favourite, and it has to be because of that blue lipstick.
Now, Lauren, I do apologise if I ask you to repeat things or the conversation does sound a little disjointed. I am struggling to hear a little bit at the moment.
Not a problem. I also struggled a little bit this morning, but not a problem at all. You can just ask me to repeat as many times as you need. We do have another interesting question from Samantha about fish feeling pain. That's another incredible question. They're coming in fast today. Yes, they do. They do. A lot of people have dismissed fish as being very primitive and maybe not intelligent, and that is not correct. People think they're primitive because they evolved a long time ago. But that actually makes them way better than we are, because they've continued to evolve, to perfect themselves to the environment that they are in. And yes, we can officially say that they do feel pain. So when hooking a fish, when going fishing, it's always important that you immediately do kill the fish when fishing, because they do suffer. So Pat, Ray is asking, how do you regulate your oxygen intake?
How do I regulate my oxygen?
Yeah, so how do you make sure you don't go through all your air too fast?
So I'm not as good at this as Lauren and Simone, but we try and take little breaths, as small as we can, and we try and exhale for a longer amount of time. So it's really, it all comes down to how well you can manage your breathing. Now this does get a little bit trickier when we are talking at the same time, but yeah, so we always try and breathe as little as possible, and also monitor our air as well. If we see that this little, so I'll actually show it here on camera. Rihanna, if you could just show my pressure gauge. So we have a little pressure gauge here, and what that tells us is how much air we have left. So when that's, so we can see here now that it's on 150 bar. When it starts to get down to about 60 or 50 bar, that's when we want to stop the dive and head up for our safety stop.
Yep, so regulating your air consumption does improve over time. If you're a new diver, you probably will go through your air faster than if you're more experienced. But even I have dives where I'm maybe finning a little too hard against the current, or I've seen one too many turtles and I'm overexcited, and you can run through your air quickly. So it does come with practice. Now, CNAC is asking about corals, so I think it would be a great opportunity to go back to basics here. He's asking, are corals consist of calcium? What is their skeletons made of? So obviously Pat is swimming on a coral reef right now, which is years and years and years of build-up of hard, stony corals, and that is correct. They are made up of tiny little animals called polyps, which are related to jellyfish, and they secrete... Oh, we have something interesting on the screen. Do you know what that is, Pat, that Rian's looking at?
Hang on, I'm just getting around to have a look. I'm currently on the opposite side here.
Okay, while you're having a look, yeah, so corals secrete calcium carbonate skeletons. That is correct. So you never actually see the animal. What you're looking at is the skeleton.
Now, I believe that this is either a zoanthid or a type of coral, but... So these, I'm pretty sure, are zoanthids.
Oh, nice, fine, yeah. So what Pat is talking about is the white-looking coral just to the left of the field of view there. Yeah, it's coming more centre now, so I think you know more about these than I do, Pat.
Yeah, zoanthids are very closely related to corals and anemones also. So we can see here that they have these big projections coming out, and that is their home. And much like corals, they will release tentacles out from here called polyps, and they will feed in the water. But I'm not 100% sure. This may be even a strange species of coral.
Well, I've definitely never seen it here before, so nice find, Rian.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting form here.
Some people have noticed that you're using a different face mask, Pat.
Yes, I am. So, because of the audio issues that we've been having, I've had to wear Simone and Lauren's face mask. So it is a little bit smaller, and I don't get that wide field of vision.
You still look wonderful.
But it works, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, so we have two different face masks that we use here, and both of them we can use to talk to the surface. So Sinak is also asking what jellyfish species are found here, and I actually haven't seen any jellyfish here yet. I think Pat found one on the dive the other day, but they're not so common through here. So we definitely will point one out if we see one, but I'm really not sure what species you actually get here yet.
And we also get foam jellies here, which are called phora, with a silent C at the start. So phora. And cone jellies are really interesting because they have this symbiotic bacteria that bioluminesces, which means that it creates light. So it's kind of like a flashing light down the side of these jellies. And I found one the other day and I couldn't really see in the light, but I put my hands behind it and blocked out the light, and I could start to see all these really fascinating colours come through. So if I find a cone jelly, I will point it out.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to see one of them. And going back to the coral, because we are getting a lot of questions about this, maybe you can point out a nice coral for us, Pat, a brain coral or an acropora or a big structure.
We have a small brain coral here. So are we wanting a stony coral or can we go with a gorgonia?
Stony coral, please. Sinak is asking what makes the colour of the coral, and that's really interesting because very basically we do divide coral into hard or soft. And hard corals are what make the structure of the reefs. Without hard coral, you would not have these coral reefs. And the reason they've got colour, it's not as bright as soft corals, but they have got colour, and that is from the little pieces of algae that live inside each polyp. So if you look at this beautiful star coral we have right in front of us, each little circle there is one individual animal. So this is a colony of hundreds of animals all together. And inside that animal will be a little piece of algae. And this is a great example of something we call symbiosis. And this just means two different species living together in harmony, and it both benefits each species. So the algae has a perfect environment to live in. It gets shelter and direct sunlight in order to photosynthesize because it's a plant, and it makes food for the corals. So the coral's a bit lazy, and all day it just gets food that is made from the plant. So yes, that algae also gives it the colour. Another great question.
Yeah, and when the algae is expelled, that is what we call coral bleaching. So when the environment gets too much for the corals to keep that algae inside of it, it will just expel the algae out of it, and then it will start to die because it's not getting the nutrition that it needs from this algae. And then also, as Lauren highlighted, that it's what makes the colour in it. It will also go pale white, so that's where the term coral bleaching actually comes from.
Yes, we don't see much signs of bleaching down here, and soft coral doesn't have algae inside of it, so therefore soft coral can grow at much deeper depth as it's not reliant on the sunlight. And soft corals generally will be a bit more colourful, blues and purples and pinks, so hard corals tend to get overlooked. Oh, what's that big fish, Pat?
That is a cero, so a mackerel that we call a cero, C-E-R-O.
Oh, nice. Normally they don't come so close.
Yeah, they usually cruise right on past, but this one is...
Yeah, so we know it was a cero from the markings on the body. That line with the little dots above it, that's how we can identify that fish. And you can see its streamlined body and its really sharp forked tail. That shows that it's a highly predatory fish and it can swim very fast. So a few people have mentioned they can hear the background noise, so just to confirm once again, we are operating outside a dive centre and there is quite a few people around, so there is some background noise, just to highlight that. And Ian is asking, how sharp is coral? That's another great question. Lots of coral questions. Coral is very sharp. The skeleton, which is made from calcium carbonate, can really cut you. So if you do brush against the coral by accident, of course, it will inflict a nasty cut. And it can be painful, and it can take some time to heal because they also do have stinging tentacles. So you should never touch a piece of coral. It's incredibly fragile, and even one touch can do a lot of damage to the tissue. But if it did happen by accident, then yes, it will be painful.
Now, Rian, if you want to come this way, I've actually spotted an indigo hamlet.
Oh, we're seeing a lot of hamlets these days. Hamlets are normally quite shy. They're quite a unique family of fish.
Yes, and they usually inhabit deeper waters as well, so we don't get very many sightings here.
I can't see it just yet. Oh, yes. Yes, the small striped fish right up ahead behind that gorgonian. It looks like it might be swimming away, slightly shy. Yes, now we can. So sort of right in the centre of the field of view, we have a striped bright blue fish. That is the indigo hamlet.
What a magnificent creature. Those markings are unbelievable. I think we might have a new contender for the Queen Angelfish, my favourite fish.
Oh, really? Well, I call every fish my favourite, so... Hamlets are quite unique in that they are hermaphrodites. We do speak about that a lot, but they do contain both male and female sex organs. So we do talk a lot about sequential hermaphrodites that change sex throughout their life, but hamlets actually don't need to change sex because they contain both organs. Did you know that, Pat?
And hamlets also can produce hybrid species as well, so there has been evidence that two separate species of hamlet multiplying and producing more of a subspecies. And we have a different species right here, actually.
Oh, you found another one? Oh, yeah. Is that a masked hamlet?
No, I'm not. This may even be a hybrid. It's got blue fins here, like the indigo hamlet, and kind of similar marking, but it's different colour, and it's got very brilliant blue spots all over its face here.
Yeah, we've lost it right now, but that was two different species of hamlet we just showed you there.
That's a bit of a treat to see.
Yeah, we're starting to see them more and more often, or maybe we're just getting better at spotting them.
Yeah, probably.
So we do have another question about the bleaching, so we will just answer it. This is from Chris. Hi, Chris. Big shout out to you. If there was a bad bleaching episode, would soft coral be affected more than hard coral? And no, they wouldn't. Hard coral would be much more affected. I was in the Indian Ocean when the 2016 mass bleaching event occurred, and 90% of the hard coral in the Maldives was destroyed. Hard coral is seriously affected by bleaching. This little hamlet is just dancing for us. Good spot, Pat.
Thank you. Good camera work from Rian as well to stay on it this one.
Yeah, good job, Rian.
So now I think I might head up and shallow up a little bit, because we do spend a lot of time here on the deeper part of the reef and the sandy patch, because we're always looking for megafauna. But even in the shallows around here, there is some really interesting things to see. So let's head back over the reef. We'll still keep our eyes peeled, see what we can see on the way across. But let's try and find something in the shallower areas.
Yeah, the shallows are teeming with life as well, and sometimes it gives us a more beautiful view because we get more light penetration in the shallows. So let's see what we can find. But we do have a great question from Paula, just asking how many species of coral are in the Grand Cayman. Now that's quite a difficult one to answer, but it is estimated there's about 65 different hard coral species here in the Grand Cayman. So the coral diversity in the Caribbean is definitely much poorer than it is in the Indo-Pacific, but there's still a lot of corals to see. So hope that answers your question.
Oh, up ahead of us there is a triggerfish, a queen triggerfish.
Oh, I love them.
They are a very beautiful fish, so let's try and get up for a closer look.
Yeah, so triggerfish are a notorious family of fish, and they are called triggerfish because on top of their head they do have a spine, or actually 3 spines that they're able to make erect and stand up, and it looks like a trigger.
We can see him munching away on this algae on the rocks here.
Oh wow, it's beautiful. You can see it's moving its dorsal and anal fin in such a unique way. We call that undulating. And it has such a beautiful pattern. That's probably where the name queen triggerfish comes from. And actually these fish have a membrane which is located near their pectoral fins, and this makes throbbing sounds. So we would never be able to hear it, but other fish can. So it's a very dominant sound, and it basically warns other fish to stay away.
Wow, this one is quite big. I would say its body alone is about the size of an American football.
Yeah, it looks quite big. And they have really strong teeth and jaws. They can really munch and take big chunks out the coral.
Now, what was that? It just went to eat something, and it kicked away from it.
Oh, is that an anemone?
Anemone.
Oh, wow. There is a free-swimming anemone.
That is something you never see.
That is awesome. So anemones they have a large disc on the underside that they stick onto a substrate, and they very rarely leave. They're not mobile animals. And here we have one that has obviously unstuck itself from the substrate, and it's just floating about the water column. It can't swim, so it's going to have to wait until it lands on another suitable surface until it can find a home again. Wow.
That is fascinating. And
I'm
not sure whether you were able to see it, but the triggerfish went to have a nibble at it, and it actually swam away.
And it probably swam away because this animal is a sea anemone, and it is named after the terrestrial anemone flower, because it kind of looks flowerish. And all these tentacles that you can see actually contain stinging cells called nematocysts. And if we were to touch one of these tentacles, we would be delivered with a painful sting. So that triggerfish probably tried to have a bite and then realized, oh, this is a mistake. So Pat, what size would you say this is? It looks really small.
Sorry?
It looks very small.
Yeah, no, so it was about the size of a golf ball.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's very, very...
mesmerising to watch. Just drift in the current. So we can see on the underside here, that's a oral surface. So this is actually where the stomach is contained, and on the top side is the oral surface, which is where all of these tentacles are coming out from, and also where the mouth is. So it will sit up, say my fingers are the tentacles, the mouth would be about here, and so it'll grab things out of the water and feed it into its mouth. Now it does this by the help of nematocysts, which are a special type of stinging cell that is contained within the tentacles. Not only of anemones like this, but, don't want to touch it here.
No, you don't.
Also from corals and jellyfish and zoanthids.
Yeah, so Pat was saying they do deliver painful stings, and there's actually 1,000 different species of sea anemones, and they are animals, even though they don't really look like it, and they're directly related to corals and jellyfish. So you probably already guessed the jellyfish one with the stinging part. It's a very simple animal, and its mouth does do the breathing, and it excretes the waste. So many of you might have heard of a sea anemone from Finding Nemo, that famous movie, because clownfish, which is what Nemo is, have a special relationship with anemones. There's 10 anemones that have a really specific relationship with anemones, and it's another example for you of symbiosis. So the anemone fish will live inside the anemone, and together they will live in harmony. And these fish never get stung by the stinging cells because they have developed a special mucus, which is about 4 times thicker than what normal fish have. And this protects them from the stinging cells. So that's 2 examples of symbiosis for you on today. So Pat, have you still got your friend with you?
Sorry?
Are you still with your friend the anemone?
No, so we're going to leave it now because we are in a spot where we shouldn't really have the cables, but Brianna's just pointed something out.
So while you're having a look, we have got lots of questions. And anemones can go up to about 6 feet in diameter, so I hope that answers your question, Paula. But obviously this one was very, very small. And you can't... Oh, what fish is this?
Now this is a huge button snapper that we're seeing right now ahead of us.
Wow.
And it's sitting on top of a cleaning station, and there's a lot of little fish here cleaning parasites off its skin.
Wow, so what you're observing right now is a big snapper being cleaned at a cleaning station. And a random bar jack just hanging around, which they always do. So you might have just seen this mutton snapper completely change colour. When we first approached it, it had bars going down its body, and now it's gone much paler, and we can just see that black dot towards the back of the body. So this is a mutton snapper, and behind it is a bar jack. And for those of you asking, yes, I'm Scottish. I try to disguise my accent, but yes, I'm from Scotland. So mutton snappers are quite famous around here because they seem to display learned behaviour. They have learned that a lot of people here spear lionfish as part of the regulation from the government, and if they follow the divers that are spearing the lionfish, they might in fact get a free meal.
Oh, and the snapper just tried to eat that anemone we were looking at.
Oh
before.
No, it probably has a very painful mouth right now.
Oh, yep, pretty put off it.
Ouch. So it is a small anemone and probably the size of the mutton snapper. The sting might not be so bad, but it definitely would have felt it. Now, Seanak is asking about barjacks, and that's a really interesting question because they are part of the jack/trevally family. They are predators. We can identify it straight away by the body shape. And they just show such amazing behaviour here that I've never seen before. They're opportunistic feeders, and they tend to just follow other animals about the reef, especially stingrays, mutton snappers, all sorts of other fish, and just steal from them whatever food they tend to be eating. They're quite cheeky little creatures.
Now this snapper, I would say, would be about 3 feet long, so 90 centimetres, almost reaching on a metre. It is a big, big boy.
Yeah, it's probably got a trout pout now, a proper trout pout from that sting. So it probably didn't realise what the anemone was, as anemones are not commonly floating about the water column. That's not normal to see an anemone like that. Normally they are completely stuck down on the substrate in between corals and sponges and things like that.
So, I have spotted a rather large boxfish over here.
Ooh. Well, while you're on your way, there is a question about clownfish, stroke anemone fish, stroke Nemo. They have lots of names now, from Aaron, asking what gender are clownfish born? And that is really interesting. The movie kind of skipped over this part, but they are all born males. Every single one of the eggs that hatch as a clownfish are male, and they have a social size hierarchy. So the bigger they get, the biggest fish at the top will be the female, and she will be in charge of all those fish underneath her. If that large female was to die, the next biggest male will change sex and take her place. So the movie definitely skipped over that complicated part. Have you managed to set your sights on that boxfish yet, Pat?
Yeah, so it's right here. So, Riyadh, if you want to come under.
So while we're just looking for this boxfish, Paula is asking, do fish ever eat anemones? And yes, they do. Butterfly fish are crazy about anemones, and they don't go for the tentacles. They tend to sneak in and just eat the body.
Oh no, it looks like it's eluded us.
Oh no, I was hoping to see that.
Yeah, no, and you would have loved this one. It was really, really big.
Well, Ryan's been a great dive buddy and asking how your air and Rhiann's air is.
Well, I am on...
Oh, lionfish.
60 bars. So a little bit left. And Ryan is on 100 bars.
Perfect. So we just have a really small juvenile lionfish in front of us right now. And Pat was looking for the boxfish, not the foxfish. That's B-O-X, boxfish. But we weren't able to find that. Instead, we have a beautiful lionfish.
Yeah, so lionfish, as beautiful as they are to see, are actually an invasive species. Now, an invasive species is a species that's been introduced from a different ecosystem, from a different part of the world, and been put into this new ecosystem and managed to reproduce and survive and thrive enough to have negative impacts on the rest of the ecosystem. So the lionfish here was bought from the Indo-Pacific, and since then it has had no predators essentially. So it's had free reign to eat whatever it wants, and because it eats such a wide variety of fish, one specimen has actually been found with 50 different types of fish inside its belly. So because they eat such a wide variety of fish and don't have any predators, their numbers skyrocketed, and obviously with that, the amount of fish that they were eating, the rest of the species of fish plummeted, so they really, really had an impact on the ecosystem here in the Caribbean. Now, thankfully, there has been a culling program in place, and their numbers have decimated quite a bit, but obviously there still are a few around.
Yeah, so there is a program. You have to have a permit, but there is a program to cull them here. Lionfish did not exist in the Caribbean until about the 1990s, until they came over here, and we still don't know how they made it here. And in reefs just off the coast of Florida today, you can normally find around 1,000 per hectare, and they are such a voracious predator. Like Pat mentioned, they just eat all the small reef fish, and it's been estimated that they can clear a reef of all the small reef fish, about up to 80% of them, in just 5 weeks. So they're quite confident fish because they don't have any predators, and they're protected by this beautiful plumage of spines, which are venomous. So what size would you have said that lionfish was? I think it was a juvenile.
To be completely honest, I actually can't see it. So Rian's in the best spot with the camera here. So I honestly couldn't see it. I can go in for a look now though. Yep, so, oh, wow. Its body is about 10 centimetres or 4 inches long. It's very small.
I think Rian might have a yellow line arrow crab, but unfortunately it's really difficult for us to see that. It's very dark, but I think that's what was being pointed out there. Maybe if we can come at it from a different angle. But back to the lionfish, they have dominated this area, and those spines are really venomous. So they're not aggressive animals. The spines are just there to defend themselves against predators. They will not use them offensively, so they will not come at you. That's very often why you see lionfish like this, which are nocturnal, hanging in caves. They will always have their spines facing you as an extra protection method. And it is said that even once the animal is dead, the spines can still sting you, so you have to be very, very careful.
Now, Rian, if you want to come over here, I've pre-found this boxfish.
Oh, yay! Love Dogs has said Rian's got a good eye, and yes, he does. Both Emil and Rian are normally the ones that find everything on the dives. So hopefully we're going to get to see this boxfish, and that's B-O-X. And normally they have a really box-like skeleton, which you will see, and that's how they get their name. Can't see it yet though. I'm really eager to.
Knowing my luck, it's probably roosted off again.
Well, you can maybe answer Aaron's question, although it's a difficult one. What is your favourite fish, Pat?
My favourite fish here in Grand Cayman or in general?
Let's do here in Grand Cayman.
Well, here in Grand Cayman, it's the queen angelfish, just because it's vibrant coloration and it's just the shape of it. It's so beautiful and always great to watch. They're also very, very relaxed around humans, so they're just, I just love seeing them just because of how beautiful they look. What about
Oh, we can see it right ahead of us. We do have, I think it's a cowfish, hold on. Yeah, it looks like the honeycomb cowfish. And we can tell it's a cowfish, which is part of the boxfish family because of this boxy, odd-shaped skeleton. And it does have 2 spines, one above each eye, which is where the name cow comes from. And these are probably there to deter predators. Hey, don't eat me. I won't make a good meal. It's got a beautiful coloration.
Oh, we got a French angelfish here too.
Yeah, we do. Your favourite. So you can see it's quite a cumbersome swimmer, the boxfish, because it does have this really bulky skeleton. And it's obviously evolved that way because the skeleton, being awkward to swallow, is a great defense against being eaten. So it's obviously more of a priority than being an agile swimmer.
Now, everybody, I'm going to have to end the dive as I have hit 50 bar. So thank you for joining me again today. It was another great dive. I didn't find my rays that I wanted to see, but we did get the boxfish, the lionfish, the angelfish, and that really, really cool anemone in the water, which honestly I have never seen before in my life. So I'm glad you were all here along with me to see it. We will be diving again tomorrow at 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Grand Cayman time. It's my day off, so you'll be with Simone and Lauren. So they'll look forward to seeing you then.